I'm gonna be here for 1 hour today. I saw these videos from this guy here, and I think I'm gonna watch them again. They're pretty good to understand, but I wanna do this myself as well. I was already studying a bunch of the source code before, and then I found his videos and I watched his videos, and then I decided to do pretty much the same thing, but on SkyliDraw instead of doing with the stuff he's using there. I tried to do with the stuff he's using, which is a website. I think I forgot the name of the website, but I couldn't do it because they limit the amount of stuff you can do with the free version, the amount of things you can put on the flowchart. So I decided to do it with SkyliDraw instead. And then by doing the thing, by building, I think there is a chance that the mistake that I'm getting on the application that I'm trying to build with that uses a custom React reconciler is not because of the rendering cycle, because they use pretty much the same functions that the normal rendering cycle uses, but it could be because of the way that they customize. So yeah, I don't know. I think there's a decent chance that it is because they created a custom renderer, which means you change the configuration of the way that React is going to work. And because of that, the rendering is messed up when you use context. But it could also be something else that I'm not sure. So today, what I'm going to do is just go over the stuff that I built here. And then I'm going to try to understand how it works. Probably going to do this a lot more times as well. So, because it is going to take a lot of time to understand because it's very complex how everything works. So I'm going to start here from the first. The beginning here just creates the DOM. But I think it's worth going over this function here. That's the first function that it calls to create the object that is going to call the render method, and then it's going to pass the JSX to the render method. So I don't remember really well if I did this. Yeah, I think I started from here, and then I don't remember. I think like there's a lot of information that I didn't put here just because you would get like too complicated the graph, and it's also the difficult thing about building is that I didn't know like before. As I was building, I didn't know how big things would be, so it's hard to think about the place you're gonna put each thing because you don't know how much you can expand. So I think I decided to just leave up to, I have the thing here. So there's a couple of places that have classes because of the fiber node. And then the other places are functions. And then this one is a function in a new file. This one is a function in the same file. And then here is a comment that I made on the return of a function. And then I have like two of these where it's green and represents some like logic that exists from one function to the other. So yeah, let's see, create container. I think this one I didn't put because it's just stuff based on the development. Also have to remember to mark this every time that I do this, which is kind of annoying. To mark the position there with Vim. Just press MA. Because then every time that I go to the place, I lose the place that I was at before. So this stuff related to development that has this condition here I didn't capture there in the flowchart. And this represents, I think, a simplification of the thing that I'm trying to do programmatically. And it is the whole point of the thing that I'm trying to build, which is just automate this process of finding the connections of everything. So let's go back. I think this one I also didn't see. A couple of them I think I left out as well because I thought that like it would just take too long and there's too much stuff to learn. So If functions. And this is the main function, I think. That's the function that I don't know really well still how it works, but I think that the way that it works is just creates the root fiber node, which is a class that contains the information at the beginning. And then after that, it creates another fiber node, which is going to be the thing that gets updated through as it is going over the elements in the DOM. And it's also possible at some point here is when there's a place that it says in the comments that there's a function to check whether or not the current DOM element is part of React or not, and if it is hydrated or not. So I think there is also logic that takes into account if there is more than one renderer or not, or if there's more, or if because it's possible to mount a React application inside of other elements that are not part of React. So as it navigates the whole tree, it has to know if the element is a part of React or not, and if it was hydrated or not. The thing that is hard to keep track is all these variables here and how they change. And like this is the problem of doing this manually, is because there's not much I can capture here. Once I'm able to do it, the other thing that I was thinking about is probably better to, after I figure this out, which I think in some ways like I already kind of did, because maybe it is the rendering cycle, let's say. That's the only explanation that I can think of in my mind. It might be something else. But after I fix that, then I think that it might be a better strategy to just do visualizations of the projects that are already well known first. And pretty much because the thing is that like there's several different challenges that I still have to go through to make the vision that I have possible in my mind. So one of the biggest challenges is to be able to create the parsing of the files in a way that is going to be able to create a graph network from the stuff that is parsing. So I'm going to have to create something that reads the files, and then the reason why it's challenging is because I'm going to have to study the compilers. So I was thinking about compilers and interpreters from languages. So I was thinking about doing that stuff first and trying to visualize these projects first, because then I can use the visualization both to optimize the way that visualization is going to be, because then I'm going to have I'm going to be able to understand if it's going to be useful or not, because I'm going to use it to improve. And then as I use to understand more the frameworks, then obviously I can improve faster. So it's like a feedback loop system. So I think it's better to do it this way than to do it with allowing people to do the commands first. I think the commands, I'm going to leave it probably the way that it is now, and then I'll do this first. But maybe I'll customize the application first as well. Customize the visualization, allow for different options for the nodes. That might be a good idea as well. So here it goes to React Fiber. I can't go through this because it doesn't understand there. I also think I'm gonna have to figure out or spend some time trying to set up the debugger on the developer tools, so I can go over, because the way that he does it on the video here is he goes over the developer tools, and then the difference is that everything's going to be on one file, which is the development file. But the way that I'm doing now is before it transpiles the code, so everything's on different files. So it's more annoying to go from one file to the other. But it's also more accurate, I think. A accurate representation of how they built the stuff. React Fiber reconciler. So this goes to this one. I think I'm gonna close the window there because it's too much of a reflection on the monitor. Much better. So maybe what I should do as well is should write some comments here as I go over this stuff. So later on I can just like read this instead of looking into the files directly. Yeah, so this is gonna go to the fiber node, which is gonna create a class that is the root node. Oh, this creates the. Oh, maybe I'm confusing the two. This is the root node class, and this is the one that traverses the thing. And this one, I think, initializes the first update, the state of the first update. So let's see. Maybe I fucked this up and I did it in the wrong level. Oh no, there's still more stuff here. Oh, maybe not. I'm looking at the wrong one. Oh, I think maybe I started with the wrong function. No, I think I did the correct one. So maybe this is incorrect. Create roots. And create container. Container. Yeah, create container should be source fiber. Oh, there's the file here as well. I don't need to look at it. And create fiber roots, which is on fiber roots. I think I was looking at the wrong function there. So this is this one and creates the class. Then this one creates the host root fiber, which is then the node. And the downside of doing things like this, like the problem is that I can't change the code or put this different stuff. Just see in the context of the actual application that I have there how it works. So I think after I do this stuff, I'm gonna have to go back to the application and try to figure out how to use the developer tools to put the breakpoints and then see if I can understand why it's messing up there. Also, this stuff related to cache, I think I didn't put on the file here. So this one creates I think F12 should go. The first state, I think, or the queue. This part here, maybe I should write this down as well. It passes the fiber, which is the first node here. And why is this that? Which is this one that is created here. So I don't think I'll navigate through the class because I There's just some variables there that I can learn, but I'm more focused on the general way that it works. So the current value for the root is going to be equal to the node, and then the node state is going to be equal to the root. This is the part that is kind of confusing. Maybe I should add a comment here or something like that. Yeah, which one is the root? I think it is this one. Fiber root. Is equal to this one. Because the thing is that maybe I should do another way so that it doesn't get there. The thing is that I think this is a key part. Like this is the thing, understanding the concept of how it works is easy, but understanding the source code is kind of hard. It's harder because you have to think about the objects, like the stuff that is invisible during the execution of the application, which is the objects and the variables, the state of everything, and then like understanding how the cycle is gonna happen. And I think that the biggest challenge I have so far is understanding how when a change in state is gonna trigger functions inside of this code here in order to change the state of the whole thing. So I think like, yeah, I have to figure out where, at what point does the code sets up the loop that is going to be responsible for this, or maybe I'm missing something. Like maybe it's outside of the code that I have here. Because every time that you change the state of a component in React, it has to re-render the components that are related to that component. And then it's going to do this through some of parts of this cycle here, but I don't understand like where is that thing. So I think this is the reason why I think it's worth putting this stuff down here. It might be useful later. But I'm not really sure as well. Or maybe I should just, instead of doing equal here, I just do an arrow here. And then I just point this. I would have to remember on other parts of the thing what happens then. Okay, so Here just sets up that enqueue thing. Does it return anything? No fiber update queue. Just makes the value of the queue. Oh, the fiber is what? I think it's on the other folder. No. Nice here. Is this one? So you asserts the value of this. I want to copy this stuff, put here. Update queue. Get here. Yeah, so okay. I'll close this one and then I think it's not worth looking into these ones. Maybe I'll look into them later. But they're just initializing the class. So I'm gonna go back and go to this one. So go to create root again. And this one is only one file, so let me see. React DOM bindings. Source, client, React DOM, component tree. Let's see. So it's passing this stuff. Root our current, which is this node here. So it's passing the uninitialized fiber. I think I'm gonna make another arrow connecting them, so it's easier to understand. Which is gonna be the root and the container. So it's making this value of the main div, which is gonna be the div that you mount the DOM on, equal to the fiber node. So what is this thing? Internal container instance key. So I think this one I'm gonna put the arrows like this. Yeah, so let me go back. So the support event is a part that I think that it talks about in the comments about traversing the tree. So I think the way that the events work is just like bubbles down between components, bubbles down and bubbles up, which means that if you have an event in one component, you have to decide if that event's going to trigger actions in the components that are children of that component, or parents, and vice versa. So I think because of the nature of that, it has to check if they are part of the React or not. So it's on bindings again, source, events, on plugin system. I think I should close as well the other files, otherwise it's going to be annoying because now I have here, so it doesn't make sense to go. To stay with more than one file because it gets really annoying once you have a bunch of them. So inside of the for loop there is the other stuff I think I didn't write. Just this root container element, no type. I don't understand really well what this does. Deduplication. And this function is called a lot, I think, even after in the other ones. And this is the one that I'm gonna go next. So it seems that in the beginning it attaches this listening maker as a. So I think it's like creating a unique key based on the instance that it is, and then it is using that key to create values in the DOM element. So that's what's happening here, I think. It's just confusing because of the language. I think it's TypeScript, so. And I don't really know like why the file is like this if it is a JS file. I didn't change anything from the source code, so that's how it is on the repository for React. So it's JS extension here, but they have TypeScript syntax, so I don't understand why. There's also some stuff about a fixed flow or flow something that seems to be a typing checking thing as well. Okay, this receives. I should have, looking back now, I should have put this stuff that is passing between functions. Maybe I'll do that off stream sometime. Because here it would be good. The problem, I think, like the reason why it gets difficult to do this manually is because there's gonna be multiple different chains of connection, so that it becomes too hard, I think. So here, for example, this stuff might be used here and that might be passed, which it is the case here. It's gonna be passed to this function. So like, because I don't know, I can see beforehand every place that a variable is gonna be used. Because difficult to know how I would what would be the best way to draw the thing so to connect all the variables. That's the problem, I think. But I think it would be really useful if I had that. All native events is probably like a list with the events, normal events in the DOM. I think I've seen this before. So it starts listening marker to true, which is the random key. And then for all the events, it's gonna do this stuff. I'm pretty sure that there was a place that there was a bunch of events. Because here just gonna be, maybe it's on this file. But here there's only two places. Maybe it's because I'm skipping something. Because if it is just an empty set, then there's no point in doing this. This for each here. So what is going on here? Maybe it's inside of the other functions, but then it doesn't make sense because obviously it's doing the loop first. And so it's gonna be inside of this function here that is gonna have, I think, a bunch of different events. Maybe I should go over just without going to the code first and just show everything. Just to have an idea of how it works. What is confusing to me is that the thing is just an empty set here. So there must be something that I'm missing here. Or maybe it's this file that I've seen that has a bunch of events. But just because it's part of the type, it doesn't, like, it's not gonna put this stuff on the set. Oh, it's the dependencies. That's the place, I think, that it adds everything. But this is inside of another function. Register direct event. I think I'm just gonna walk through here, the graph first, then I'll go back and continue the source code. I have to go back to the other file to see if there's anything that I missed before that is gonna add the stuff to that set. Because I just put functions there and I didn't put the other stuff. Yeah, that's weird as fuck. Maybe the first iteration it doesn't have anything, so it just skips that part and it does everything on the other parts. I think I'm gonna continue this. Uh, I'm gonna just go over this stuff here the way that it is, and then I'll go back to following the code. Probably what I'm gonna do off stream. Don't know when, but yeah, I'm not really sure if it's worth it or not. That's the problem. But like because this is gonna be a lot more useful if I have more information. So I could add more information gradually. But also, I'm not really sure if it's gonna help me solve the thing or not. Like, it's hard to tell if I'm learning well with this way or not. Because the main thing that I want to understand here is how the state is gonna trigger the rendering, especially with use context. So how does the hooks change the state and then trigger re-renders of components, and how it determines which one's going to be triggered first. But it's very complex, so it's hard to know what's the best way to go about it. Yeah, so this file has the switch which uses these functions, and then these functions I think are gonna put the events. So if I remember correctly, there is like it creates a flag variable before the switch, and then at each point of the switch, it triggers one of these functions at each case of the switch. And then this file uses pretty much the same functions, which it puts inside of a try catch block, try finally block, these other functions here, and that set up the events. So I think I saw like the file that has the list of the events here, but then it doesn't make sense because then like there isn't anything on the set to the for loop in the beginning. So I think that this works probably. I think that create update should work every time there is a re-render, probably. And this returns a lane. So that's also another confusing concept, which is it creates multiple different lanes to update. So it's hard to know how it works really well. Yeah, that's the part that it has the comment there that I talked about. This last function here. So I'm just gonna briefly go through everything and then I'll go back. So this creates the React DOM on the return statement, and then it's gonna call the render. Usually, like you call the render when you're creating the application. So first you create the DOM, which is the object, and you call the render method on the DOM and pass the JSX element. I think Next.js does that for you. So, but in a normal React application, I think that's how it's usually done. Or it should be the only way to do it, actually. So these functions are the ones that I didn't look last time that I looked at the source code. And it seems like they have a lot of stuff related to hooks and the context. So it might be one of the reasons why I was struggling to figure out or to understand the previous time, because I skipped a lot of things. So this finds the current fiber, gets nearest fiber mounted at public instance, and then this is at the end. Update containers at the end of the render function, and this is the function that I think that the application that I'm working on calls there after creating. So it's pretty much the same thing that it does, but it calls this directly after creating the main root instead of creating render. But I think it's pretty much the same thing. So I think the way that React Reconciler works in when you use to create a custom renderer is that it just allows you to put different configuration for different logic for the functions that are going to trigger, but then you call the same functions. So it might be the case that it's calling the same method, which is the update container, but it's doing different things because it's changing the way that the functions work. I think that's most likely what's happening. Request update lane, and this is the part that is going to handle lanes, which are the things that are going to make sure are going to organize the priorities of updates, I think. Request current transition, pink, entangled action lane, request transition lane, click next transition, get current update priority, get current event priority. So this is the stuff that sees what things should be updated first, I think. These parts, and then it goes through these other functions. So if you have the enable scheduling profiler, it's gonna call this function. I put them in order here, so the order of the things is the order of the execution of inside of the function. And I think this is the place that contains the stuff about context and the hooks. So get instance, find current unmasked context, and is fiber mounted at nearest mounted fiber. So here is probably trying to understand or figure out what is the fiber that is mounted. And then here's the stuff about context, I think. So after it calls this function, and this one calls the same function as well, to see if the current node is the context provider. Is a context provider, I think. And process child context. Yeah, this one I didn't know because it was calling a function based on the argument that it passed to this one. So then after that, it calls this function. I think this one is gonna be based on the stuff that happens here on this update queue here, if I remember correctly. The create update, and then it calls the enqueue update. Just probably gonna trigger all the cycle. So React Fiber work loop is probably the file that handles as it says, the work loop of the thing. But it's like difficult to understand how does it keep. Like the main question I have is after the initial mount that renders everything, how does it keep the request animation frame going? What part of the code sets that up? And how it's difficult because I think there isn't anything there on the code that I'm studying because it's probably related to the V8 or the browser engine or something outside. Or it might be like different threads or something like that make it so that you have the constant loop checking to see if there are updates or not. Or because it shouldn't be the case, I think that it just renders and then it stops the code, let's say, and nothing happens. I think there's always a constant loop, and then whenever there's an action, then that action can change the loop, and then it's gonna trigger a bunch of functions inside of these files here. But it's hard to see based on the files here at what point does that happen. So I think what I have to do is go over the files and then just write more stuff. But the problem is I need to know what is important, because otherwise it's going to be too many things. So I need to capture the variables and the stuff that is being passed around and connect them through the files. To see how does the class is changing, how is the class changing through all the function calls. Yeah, this is just a check function. Mark updated lane from fiber roots. Merge lanes. This is again related to the priority of things. Mark hidden updates. Queue updates. Merge lanes. And these ones are after this condition, if root is different than no. Schedule update on fiber. So this is probably the function. Maybe I should go directly to this one and see. The problem is that I might miss the context. So React reconciler source, React fiber workload. Schedule update on fiber. So I have the root, the fiber, and the lane. Let's see. So I'm gonna look into this function, this first, and then I'm gonna see what parts seems interesting, and then I'll go back to the source code. Repair fire stack, also timeouts. Create work in progress. Create fiber. So this creates another fiber node. So I'm curious to see if how is this fiber node if it is related to the other ones, and if it is, how it is related. Prepare fresh stack. I should have here. It's passing the root and the no lanes. The root's fiber. And this is the thing that is hard, because I can't see how at what state the root's gonna be at when it gets through here, and all of the different things. So ultimately, I think I'm gonna have to use the developer tools. I have no idea how long I'm gonna spend trying to solve this as well, but I think I'm gonna spend a bunch of time, because I think it's important. It's one of these things that after you understand, then like I don't have to think about this more, because I'm gonna have a very good grasp and intuitive understanding of how it's working. So, and it's gonna save me a lot of time in the future for every problem that I encounter. So I think it's worth spending a bunch of time instead of trying to develop everything else first. Because I could just find a simple solution to solve the problem that I have on the other application here by trying to change things and trying to try different things, but I think it's not worth it. I think it's better to really understand first how it works, but it's gonna take a lot of time, I think. Let me see what function is using here again. So this is the custom renderer that they create using the React reconciler. And this is the React Pixie library. Let's update container. Yeah, create container. So it's probably the same function. So it's on the create work in progress with Fiber. This one, so it passes the current root. So the current root is the one that in the beginning that was being the uninitialized root, I think. So I think it makes sense. So it's probably gonna do something with that. So in the beginning, it initializes this one, and then on that function is gonna do something with this one, which is the current root. Yeah, and the function that I have there on the other one is this create container, which is probably this one here. Just creating this two roots here. And then it calls the update container. So I think the main difference, the only difference between the custom renderer and the normal renderer is that the custom renderer, you pass different configurations for the host container. So that you pass different configurations and then you change the functions based on that. So maybe that's the other thing that I can explore here as well. I can just look at the configurations on here. I think it's host config. So I can look at the configurations on this file. And this is the stuff that is going to pass through the React compiler. So I have to see how does React work with the configurations in the beginning there. How do they change the thing, the way that it works. So it's passing the current one and from the pending props. Current.alternate. And then what is alternate again? I think from the video of this guy here, I remember he says something, I think on the first video. I think alternate is something that connects the current one with the other one. Like it's an object that handles the... Because the way that it works is they use a principle that is used on gaming, I think, gaming programming, which is the principle of the double buffer. So it creates two different trees and then it swaps them when it updates. So it does all the updates on one tree, and then when the updates are ready, it swaps that tree with the other one. And I think that the way that it does that is by using this alternate thing. So what's here? Current alternate, work in progress, create Fiber. So this is the thing that is going to create the node. It's passing the current tag, key, mode, props, element type, is equal current element type. And then it's probably going to return the work in progress, which is the Fiber node. Current.alternate. So it is, it makes sense that it would be the alternate is the object that connects the two different nodes, and then it swaps them at some point, probably. So it's kind of like a... Not sure if it is... Like it's similar to a linked list, I think, but not exactly the same. Because it's just one object serving as a bridge between the two different states. Blah blah blah. Current alternate equals work in progress. Yeah. So it does the swapping here. So it creates the thing, gets some of these elements, which is some of these values, state, type, element. Then here the alternate of the work in progress becomes the current, and the alternate of the current becomes the work in progress. So it's swapping them. There's this if statement here. if work in progress is null. Else, any prompts, blah blah blah. Reset the effect. What does the effect tag do? So effects is probably related to the mounting and unmounting. It is hopefully it doesn't take too much time to, because I have to see, like I have to find a good way to visualize. Maybe I'll just do this off stream and then, like now that I already have all this stuff, just go back again and then just try to see what points I don't have there, like what is invisible, which is mainly the state, I think. So I need to track the state of the host fiber node and the root fiber node and the state of the current fiber node through each file. So see, maybe I'll use a different color for that, and then I can just draw there. Overreading during parents' reconciliation. And then it returns this thing here. Work in progress becomes this. So this function is going to return this. Just prepare fresh stack. Let me think about it. I have to see this one as well. I think here is that I don't think it does anything with this value there on the main one. So React Fiber work loop. Oh, it's the same file. So let me see here. So this is just related to the lanes, updating the lanes. Fiber to roots. So it's changing as it changes as it creates or changes the work in progress node with the node that was initialized in the beginning. It updates the lanes based on that node from the root node. So it's updating the lanes here based on that. Yeah, so let me go back to this and see how it uses the prepare. It just calls the function but doesn't uses the value. Check the work loop is currently suspended and waiting for data to finish loading. Did it stop here? Oh, it's almost over. I think I'm gonna stop after 1 hour. I wanna do stuff off stream. But I'm gonna continue. I'm not gonna worry about the build space update, I think. Because it's just not the best approach in my mind to go about this. I have to understand this first. Then once I really understand it and fixing the problem is gonna be easy, I think, after I really understand this. Then after I fix the problem, then I can work on the visualization of the graph and all the other stuff. So I think that's the best approach. And that's probably what I'm gonna do. Regardless of how much time it takes. I'm probably gonna improve this, I think. So go over the code on this and try to see, like, I think I need to go over this a few times and watch the videos a few times as well to, because then once I'm going over the code, I'm gonna be able to know what is the stuff that's important to keep track of that I'm confused about. And that way I'm gonna be able to write down this stuff here. And then it's gonna be a lot easier to just look at the stuff that I have here to understand how it works. But I think here is already really good. It's already it makes it a lot easier to understand what's going on. Context dependencies, reset hooks. So this is the stuff that is related to hooks. Reset work in progress tree. Finishing. I'm gonna go over briefly and then I'm gonna stop. Root updates. And if there isn't a continuation on this, is because the function stops there. There is no other function calls, so add fibers to lane map, add transition to lane, ensure root is scheduled, reset render time. Flush sync work on legacy routes only. Flush sync work crossroads. So reset render time should be interesting as well, because it's probably related to the cycle of the way that the loop is gonna work. With fiber, blah blah blah. Yes, so like the core of the thing I think is here. The core of the way that the fiber updates the render state. And to understand here, I need to understand how does the context change. Because this is the part that it creates the context of the initial state. And then the functions here are gonna change the way that the initial state is. Let's go to the last ones here. Yeah, so this is the last call there on the update container. Entangle transitions, and then it calls all of these functions inside of this function from this file. And all of these functions are related to the lanes as well. So, and lanes are the way that React uses to decide what is the priority of each thing to be updated. So obviously I'm gonna continue to do this stuff here. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do today writing the things on the graph, but I'm probably gonna watch these videos again and then go over the source code more, and then I'm probably gonna do this on stream, I think, next time, to just write the stuff that I think that is gonna make it easier to understand how this state is changing and how, because there's a lot of stuff that says about context as well. So I think it creates an execution context, and then based on that context is like an object, and the object handles all the information of the stuff that is happening across these functions here. So I think that next time that I stream, I'm probably gonna try to write down here both stuff related to the state of the nodes and to the state of the context as it moves through the functions. It's gonna be really annoying because for each function, I have to go and see like if the variable that is receiving is related to these variables, and then there's no other way besides going function by function. So yeah, but that's probably what I'm going to do next.